Hi everyone, welcome to the office, the work office, again. I was hoping to do this on the drive home yesterday to show you all the nice, pretty sunshine we've been having, or gonna have for the next few days. But, yeah, the car has broken, and, well, it's not broken. Our CV joints are worn out, and we're not gonna be able to fix it till next week. So, those of you who are here for off-roading, check back next week, there'll be more of that. In the meantime, we'll have nice serious subjects because it's that fabulous time of year. And I need to do this video today because we're about to be on the cusp of that fun conversation of, do you want to cook this year? And if so, what? So, yeah, oddly enough, between the two holidays that are very stressful, I find Thanksgiving a bit more stressful than Christmas, and it's gotten worse over the last several years as I've put more and more of my parents' past history together. So, I swear, I only ever get mucus when I'm trying to do a recording. Alright, so Abandonment Day! Yeah, Abandonment Day. aka the thing that's made me the woman I am today. Thanks, Mom. So, my Abandonment Day is November 20th, 1990. I was 8 years old, and I'll try to make this concise and give you the 8-year-old version and then try to fill in the details with all the crazy stuff I learned about later. But the 8-year-old version is, so my mom walked me up to the bus stop like any other day, and she was about to put me on the bus, and she looked in my eyes and basically told me, if anyone asks, or if I'm running late, I'm just gonna go to the next couple towns over where the big mall is and buy you some clothes. And I don't remember anything more remarkable than that. Got on the bus, got home. Mom didn't come home. Mom didn't come home that night at all. And that was pretty freaky for an 8-year-old. And then the next day, we went up to the bus stop, because our bus stop was up the road on a hill, so that the bus wouldn't get rear-ended, which I think middle school or high school, they did change their minds on that and decided it was okay for the bus to possibly get rear-ended in the morning because it was dark and you should see the flashers. But at this point in our lives in elementary school, we were still walking up the hill. So we walk up the hill, the bus stop, and up at the top of the hill is the car, because my mom had taken off in the car, to go the next town over. So the big blue car, and they might have had another car, but this is the car I remember being the car at 8, is actually parked up at the bus stop, and there's a note stuck underneath one of the windshield wipers. And I probably tried to get the note. Didn't get to see the note until my dad passed, which is totally fine, considering the situation. But there was a note under the windshield wiper, that's all I remember, and then my dad, put me on the bus. So my dad was a tough old guy, and this was Gen X, and we didn't hold kids at home just because their mom happened to disappear for a while. Put me on the bus, drove the car back home, and then probably went and started filing the missing persons reports, or not, depending on what exactly was in the note. The only thing I remember next happening was probably that evening we had a cop come by to, again, I think, presumably do the missing persons report, and my dad at one point telling me, like, can you go upstairs and look for this, wrist cuff that my mom had that was like a Thunderbird, that was like Indian style jewelry. Apologies if that's offensive. So yeah, he's like, go upstairs and look for this, which I'm sure as an adult now was probably just to keep me from overhearing stuff that would have panicked me. And if I had been maybe a few years older, I might have been able to hear it anyway because I figured out the vent system at a young age. But at this point, I had like no reason to suspect what the heck was going on. So yeah, I was worried, and I was worried because I had, again, my mom literally just put me on a bus one day and was like, later. And I don't remember, like, at all that Thanksgiving. And the older I get, the more I sort of feel baffled about that. Because I'm like, what exactly did we do that year? Like, I remember later Thanksgivings where, okay, so my mother ran away with her best friend's husband. And this is really weird, and I'll draw a diagram later if I talk more about my lovely side of that family. But my dad, so my mother's best friend was my dad's best friend's little sister. So, for whatever reason, like, my dad and her still hung out and stuff, even after my mom, like, ran off with my sister's father. Yeah. It was very strange, but we did do a lot of Thanksgivings at their house. So most of my Thanksgiving memories are from being over there. That first year, I'm sitting there going, who would have taken us in? And would we have gone to my aunt's, or would we have gone over there? Although I think it was too soon to go over there, because this was still in this weird, like, semi-divorce, pre-divorce period when I know at least one other incident that my mom got in trouble for because she, like, I assume in the spring before the divorce was finalized. I'd have to check the timeline. She came up and took me out of school and like took me shopping, and I think tried to explain her side of things to like a 9 or 10 year old, which I don't remember much of other than the shopping and getting redeposited back at school and then finding out exactly how angry my dad was at that, because apparently this was before anyone had informed the school that my mom didn't have custody of me and could still check me out. So, yeah, that's my abandonment day story. My mom literally like put me on a bus one day to go to school and took off. And I didn't get a heck of a lot of an explanation about it for a lot of years. And as a smart kid, it bothered me. Mainly because I knew my parents were BSing me. Like, I got stuff from my mom that was like, your dad tickled too hard, this, that, the other. And my dad just plain wouldn't tell me. He's like, anyway, without beleaguering my dad's memory too much, he did do some parental alienation stuff that he was very hurt. Like, I understand why he was so dang angry, but there's a lot of things he probably shouldn't have said. Like, I didn't want to have you, but I stuck by you. Which you're like, yay. I don't remember at what age my dad like made it very clear that he didn't want to have me. I did get it backed up later by my mom, when we were still speaking to each other in my 20s, and she's like, "Yep, I did. Your dad did not want to have you. I know she had at least one abortion before I was born, and then basically fought him when she got pregnant with me and was like, no, we're having this one,' which makes it like even weirder that she abandoned me, because I always felt like she and I were really close. I knew my dad as like the guy in the basement. That's how I referred to him when I went to therapy in middle school, because I'm like, I really didn't know him. It was just this guy that came up out of the basement and had to figure out how to cook and clean for me and had to figure out how to take care of an 8-year-old, which granted she was living in his house the entire time, so it wasn't like, I got plopped in his lap or something, but I still, as he put it, I was my mother's project. Like, he wasn't keen on me. He didn't want to have me. I found out a lot later that a lot of that was due to financial reasons. Like, okay, my dad could be a jerk. I'm not saying he's perfect, or was perfect, but yeah, he probably told my mother, and I'm sure he did, and he did admit to this, that like point blank, like, so I can get, X amount of extra Social Security disability if we have one kid, but I can only get like a smaller percentage extra if we have a second. So what's the point in having a second if you can't get the pay bonus? Yeah, my dad was that kind of guy. We were just like, wow. And the main reason my mom ended up running off on him is, again, because he felt betrayed by her, because she essentially said, I'm keeping this one. So she ended up getting a 7-year itch, because my dad, after that point, didn't want to be intimate with her, because he felt like she was not going to, agree to things. Because as she put it, her goal was to have 2 young daughters, to have 2 girls, preferably by the same man, but as she pointed out, that didn't work out, so let's run off with her best friend's husband and split skis to Florida. So, yeah. I spent a lot of years being upset about that. Now as a grown adult, I understand why. It's definitely not a romantic thing to take your 8-year-old with you in an RV while you're driving down to Florida and contemplating all the terrible things you're doing. Yeah, my mom's justification for that at one point was like, well, I thought it would hurt you horribly, but you'd get over it and be all right. And you had your dad, and your dad had your house. And I gave him all the assets, and he was stable and knew what he was doing. Mom, oh, you do not understand how being abandoned by your mother will screw you up. Because she was, she was very, very blasé about it, and granted, she was the one doing the abandoning, so I feel like it was probably easier. I don't know. I had a whole bunch of replacement issues with, like, my sister. Like, run off with my sister's father and then try to have, like, another family. And then he ends up basically being the lovely grade A person he was before. Because my mother told me, and her had, at the time, she decided to get involved with him. It was partially 7-year itch, and because he was handsome and things were, happening at home in the way she wanted them to. My dad tried to offer alternatives, but again, Mom wasn't into that. So, yeah, she ran off with the handsome guy, and she claimed at the time it was partly to take the heat, the physical heat, because he was, like, I saw evidence growing up as, like, a young kid of all the holes that were, like, in their house that were punched in the walls from him. And so Mom told me that, like, it got to a point where her best friend turned to her and is like, can you buy me a gun? Because I'm going to kill him. And my mom was like, oh, no. Which, yeah, that's the good part of the story. But she's like, no, I'll just, go get involved with him. And if I get involved with him, that'll take the heat off you because he'll be too busy with me. And, You can do whatever with the kids, and God knows what she thought was going to go on with my father. It makes no sense. But anyway, because of this, I'm always like sitting around Thanksgiving going, what do I have to be thankful for? I mean, I'm thankful I had my dad. I'm thankful I have things in my life. I'm thankful I'm stable, but still always got that overhanging. Yep, even though it was Thanksgiving and, the big part of the holidays are about to come up, you weren't that important. You weren't, you weren't a trip to Florida. You weren't a nice, brand new, romantic adventure, and as my mom told me later, you always blame me for that. You were always crying. You never got over it. And I'm like, what do you expect? Like, yes, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up a lot because I need to process it. And you constantly saying stupid things to me like, your dad tickled too hard or whatever. And waiting until I'm like in my mid-20s before you're finally like, yeah, I had an affair and it was dumb. And then my dad died and I find all the other stuff where I'm like, okay, he did shield me from a lot of stuff and there was a reason he was angry. And he tried, to his credit, he tried to stay out of my relationship with my mom. At least when I was like in my 20s and we were trying to build a relationship. So he did stay out of that. Because he's like, I don't want to poison you against your mother any more than, like, I already feel like I have. It's like, yeah, because you have said some mean things about my mom. And then I go out and I discover, it's not, unfortunately, completely off base. Now, my mother's side of the things, I can easily see why she got frustrated at my dad, and if my dad was, as the letter suggests, offering a path back to reconciliation, he is also, and I can tell you this, from having the same personality, he's definitely the type of person to throw things back at you and be snarky. So I could easily see that escalating into some fights and my mom just being like, if you're gonna not give it up, if you're not gonna let me start over, then why am I here? I'm just gonna run off with this other person. So yeah, personally, I always told her when I was an adult, I'm like, I didn't have a problem with you, divorcing my dad. I mean, yeah, I did, but I had more of an issue with the way you did it because you literally just popped out of my life, and that was not cool. And it messed me up. Well, I tried to stay in touch, and I wrote letters, and I made phone calls, and you just cried all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I cried all the time because I'm no idea what to do. I didn't go into therapy until middle school, and probably wouldn't have even then. If the school district hadn't caught something. So yeah, that's the joy of being Gen X and poor. You just get to ride with your trauma, and oh well, so what. Big shout out though to my second and third grade teachers for being totally awesome and supporting me through it though, because in the 80s and early 90s, I think when my mom became a deadbeat mom, it was about like, I want to say 10% of the population was divorced at that point. So I knew people whose dads had like left their moms, but to this day, I still haven't really met anyone whose mom has like completely given up on the family and just been like, bye. I mean, I see them on TV, thank goodness, which is partially why I'm sharing this, so that if you do have a mom who like abandoned you, rest assured you're not alone. It's a very unique experience to be abandoned to your father and have that happen, but you're not alone. And yeah, we'll explore the holidays together because I don't know what I want to cook this year. If I want to have duck again, if it's worth the effort. Yeah, I'm kind of out of it for the holidays this particular year. I don't know why I'm not feeling it. Maybe it's just the inflation pinch, but I'm just kind of sitting here going, yeah, I could just stay home, not buy anybody anything, and not get anything, and I could be okay with that. Anyway, I've almost moved on past stuff, but just want to let people know that people do get abandoned. And, well, we'll see if Dan wants to share his story. He's got a very unique one, so. But me, I'm just abandoned.